Hello everyone, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Watch my video and subscribe my channel. Bill promises Grace will pay, but Taylor refuses to take off Ridge's ring. The bold and the beautiful spoilers teaser video for the week of August 11th to 15th shows that Bill Spencer will promise that Grace Buckingham will pay. Taylor Hayes will also refuse to remove Ridge Forrester's ring. So this is what B&B fans may expect. The show's weekly teaser begins with Nick Marone presenting Brooke Logan with an engagement ring, putting his proposal preparations back on track following all of the drama in Italy. Nick will tell Brooke that things aren't over for them and confess his love, but she may reject him. Ridge offered Brooke hope when he saved her life and promised to make things right. Therefore, Nick's proposal may be refused. Ridge assured Brooke that he would never take her for granted again and kissed her. It's clear who his heart belongs to. It's simply an issue of how to manage the situation with Taylor, as Ridge is still engaged to her. She has a future, but it's not with you because I am not taking off this ring, Taylor tells Ridge in B&B's weekly promo. Of course, Taylor may alter her mind if Ridge admits to smooching Brooke and expresses a wish to reunite with her. Depending on how things go, Taylor may toss that ring in Ridge's face for breaking her heart. Meanwhile, Sheila Sharp will confront Lee Finnegan about why she saved Luna Nozawa and then faked her death. Liam Spencer and Hope Logan will also brief Bill on what they learned from Grace, who admitted to the brain cancer hoax before going to the police station to turn herself in. Bill will lose his mind when he finds Grace duped him into paying $1 million and putting Liam through this horrific situation. Liam will explain that Grace prescribed medications to simulate brain tumor symptoms, making Bill realize how far her lie went. Bitch is going to pay, Bill declares with a snarl in the weekly preview video. The bold and the beautiful spoilers indicate Bill's wrath will be unleashed once he receives the bogus cancer news. Sheila's stunning hypocrisy toward Luna and Poppy exposed. Fans condemn Sheila Carter's astounding hypocrisy as she assesses Poppy Nozawa's parenting. The villain, who abandoned her own children, plays Luna's sympathetic grandmother. Fans are stunned by Sheila Carter's hypercritical attack on Poppy's parents. The pot calling the kettle black has B&B viewers screaming. Hold on to your remotes, soap enthusiasts, for the audacity is off the charts. Sheila Carter, the woman who has literally spent 3 decades harassing families, exchanging babies and shooting individuals, is now acting as a worried grandmother and judging Poppy Nozawa's parenting skills. I really can't take this level of hypocrisy. Fans are obviously furious, and one viewer aptly described what we're all thinking. Since when has Sheila been Mother of the Year? What is the answer? Never. This woman has never demonstrated any mother instincts during her 35-year reign of terror, and yet she is clutching her pearls over Poppy's faults, the bombshell that began it all. Let's look at what sparked Sheila's complete 180. For months, she demonstrated unexpected empathy for Poppy, to the point where her husband, Deacon Sharp, became skeptical of her unusual generosity. But everything changed with one startling revelation. Luna Nozawa is Finn Finnegan's biological daughter. That's correct. Luna is no longer merely a troubled intern. She is Sheila's grandchild, the result of a scandalous meeting between Poppy and her adolescent nephew Finn several years ago. When did Finn's paternity test confirm him as the father? Sheila's whole worldview transformed. Luna went from being a nobody to having blood. Her new connection to the Forrester dynasty via Finn and his son Hayes. Sheila's criminal maternal history makes this rich. Can we please address the staggering hypocrisy here? Let me remind everyone of Sheila's great parenting record. Sheila drugged Scott Granger to become pregnant, and after her baby died, she actually switched him with Lauren Fenmore's healthy kid. That's how her parenthood adventure began, with a kidnapping. What about her daughter, Mary Warwick? Sheila persuaded the poor girl into seducing Rick Forrester as part of a wicked plan. Mary screamed for guards to let her out of the prison visiting chamber after learning her mother's true nature. She absolutely disowned Sheila. But wait, there's more. Sheila has twins on YNR, Daisy and Ryder, who are both criminals whom she has effectively abandoned. She has another daughter, Diana, who she shows no interest in. And here's the kicker. Sheila has a grandchild named Lucy through Daisy, whom she has ignored for years. Yet, she has unexpectedly become Luna's grandmother of the year. Please, the true reason behind Sheila's judgment. This is not about Sheila suddenly acquiring morals. This is a premeditated power play, and I believe it's all part of her biggest scam yet. Think about it. Sheila's entire life has revolved around entering the Forrester dynasty. She failed to secure her position through marriage to Eric Forrester. She failed via her daughter Mary. But thanks to Finn, who married Steffi Forrester, she finally obtains her golden ticket. Sheila removes competition by portraying herself as a concerned grandma and Poppy as the irresponsible mother. She wants control of Luna, but Poppy stands in her way. Classic Sheila manipulation. Some fans believe this is also a psychological projection. Sheila sees her own shortcomings in Poppy, the falsehoods about paternity, the neglect, the chaos, and is projecting her self-loathing onto a suitable target. It's simpler to judge the sinner in the room than the one in the mirror, right? Poppy's character assassination makes Sheila look good. The writers absolutely damaged Poppy's persona to make this scenario work, which truly grinds my gears. She moved from being a free-spirited but loving mother to saying she was glad her daughter had died. Seriously, writers? Really? They transformed Poppy into a pill-popping, negligent mother almost overnight. It's as if they needed someone worse than Sheila to make viewers believe in a Sheila redemption storyline. The character assassination was so obvious that fans were calling it out left and right. What is really going on with Luna? Speaking of Luna, this is where things really get fascinating. Spoilers indicate that she is not actually dead. Dr. Lee Finnegan is supposedly hiding her and treating her in secret while she is in a coma. When Luna awakens, which she will find herself in the middle of a three-way matriarch war. Will she side with Poppy, who has effectively disowned her? Will she be loyal to Aunt Lee, who saved her life? Will she fall under the influence of loving grandmother Sheila? My money is on Sheila to draw this fragile young woman into her web. That's what she does best. Nobody foresaw the unholy alliance. Prepare for this twist. There are hints that Sheila and Lee may team up against Poppy. I know, these two despise each other, but they both dislike Poppy even more. Lee is enraged that her sister has seduced her son, and Sheila sees Poppy as a competitor. Could you imagine? Sheila Carter and Lee Finnegan team up to protect Luna from Poppy's influence? Despite being the enemy of my enemy, still, this unholy union would be Sheila's masterstroke, eliminating Lee as an adversary while marginalizing Poppy. The million-dollar question, is this redemption or the ultimate con? So what is Sheila's endgame here? Is she truly attempting to be a good grandma? Or is this her most complex plan yet? Scenario 1. Sheila's near-death experiences have transformed her, and she sincerely wants a bond with her grandchildren. Her techniques remain twisted because that's all she knows, but the motivation is genuine. Scenario 2. Everything Sheila does is a performance. The judgment of Poppy, the feigned grief, the protection of Steffi, all are intentional efforts toward ensuring the Forrester legacy through her grandchildren. I am betting on the lengthy con. We're talking about Sheila Carter, the lady who has repeatedly faked her death, shot her own son, and terrified families for decades. A leopard does not change its spots, and Sheila does not magically become Mother of the Year. The fans have spoken, and they are not having it. This topic has really blown up on social media. Fans are unified in condemning the hypocrisy. One viewer saw a complete 180 in Sheila's behavior, while others point out that she's judging Poppy for the same things she's guilty of 10 times. The fact that Sheila has a grandchild on YNR that she has disregarded for years, but now cares about Luna. Everyone can see through this manipulation. We understand it's all about the Forrester connection, not true grandmotherly affection. Bottom line, Sheila's hypocritical grandma act is definitely the first step in a sophisticated game to gain control of Luna and permanently infiltrate the Forresters. The true question is whether Poppy and Lee will be able to stop her, or if Sheila is about to pull off her biggest ruse yet. Will Luna see through her grandmother's ruse when she awakens? Can Poppy rehabilitate herself after the authors threw her under the bus? And how long before the real Sheila reveals her true colors again? One thing is certain. This grandma war is only getting begun, and the hypocrisy will reach epic proportions before it ends. Bill Spencer's fury was a living, breathing force in the room. The kind of rage that doesn't just hang in the air but radiates heat, curling like smoke from a fire that's been smoldering for far too long. And as he stood in his sprawling Spencer Publications office, staring out over the Los Angeles skyline, the weight of Grace Buckingham's deception crushed down on him, harder than any business loss ever could. Because this wasn't about money, though the $1 million he had wired to her for Liam's so-called life-saving brain surgery was certainly a wound that burned. It was about betrayal, about trust shattered into jagged shards that cut everyone in their orbit, and he vowed with a low, gravelly voice that carried more menace than a shouted threat that Grace Buckingham was going to pay, not just financially but personally, legally, socially, and emotionally, because when you cross Bill Spencer, you learn that revenge isn't a fleeting emotion for him. It's a long game, meticulously planned, with every piece of the board set to fall exactly the way he wants it. And as he clenched his fists, thinking about how she had preyed on his desperation to save Liam, lying about MRIs, staging fake consultations, and orchestrating a surgical charade that left Liam weaker, confused, and humiliated, he knew this wasn't just about bringing Grace to justice. It was about restoring his own sense of control, something he hadn't felt since the night he got the call that Liam had collapsed. And while Bill was plotting, over at Forrester Creations the mood was no less tense, but in a completely different way, because in the elegant, sunlit design office, Ridge Forrester stood facing Taylor Hayes, his mind tangled in knots, his heart split between loyalty, history, and an undeniable pull toward Brooke Logan, who had just days ago been in his arms in Italy after he dove into the churning waters to save her from drowning, the moment replaying in his mind like a loop of fate reminding him where his destiny truly lay. Yet here stood Taylor, her eyes fierce, her voice calm but edged with steel as she told him, "She has a future. But it's not with you, because I am not taking off this ring." And the weight of that statement hit him like a stone because he knew what it meant. Taylor wasn't letting go, wasn't conceding, wasn't willing to make this easy for him. And the truth was, part of him respected her for it, because Taylor had spent years fighting for scraps of his attention in a love triangle that had defined decades of their lives. But respect didn't change the fact that his heart was with Brooke. And speaking of Brooke, she was now facing an entirely different kind of pressure, because Nick Marone, rugged, relentless, and utterly convinced that fate was giving them a second chance, had just slipped an engagement ring into her hand, telling her that things weren't over between them, that he loved her, that he had never stopped loving her, and while his timing was questionable, coming so soon after the chaos in Italy, after Ridge's rescue, after a kiss that reignited everything between her and Ridge, there was an earnestness in Nick's voice that tugged at her, because Nick had been there for her in ways Ridge never was. Yet, as she held the ring and heard Nick's words, all she could think about was the promise Ridge had made to never take her for granted again. And back at the hospital, where all of Grace's lies had unraveled, Finn was poring over Liam's latest scans with Bridget Forrester, both doctors shaking their heads in disbelief at the extent of the fraud, the falsified medical records, the non-existent tumor, the reckless endangerment, and Finn's anger was simmering just below the surface, because this wasn't just professional outrage. This was personal, given that Grace's scam had been enabled by the same kind of moral void that had almost cost him his life when they had faked his death to protect him from Sheila. And that thought inevitably brought Sheila into the picture, who was currently in Bill's office, not as an enemy, but as an unlikely ally, because she too wanted Grace exposed, partly to curry favor with Finn, and partly because she couldn't resist the opportunity to take moral high ground against someone else's villainy. Though the hypocrisy of Sheila Carter judging anyone's parenting or ethics was enough to make even Bill smirk. And yet in that moment, Bill didn't care, he would take help from the devil herself if it meant destroying Grace. And as the days of the week inched toward August 11th to 15th, every character was being pulled tighter into the web, with Papi Nozawa quietly seething over Grace's actions because the fallout had splashed onto her and the lingering whispers about Luna's supposed death were being stirred up again, especially now that some were questioning if Lee had faked Luna's death the same way she had faked Finn's, a theory that sent shockwaves through the family and even made Steffi Forrester's guarded heart skip a beat. Because if Luna was alive and out there, it meant her stabbing spree had been covered up in ways no one could fully understand, and Steffi herself was juggling too much. Her marriage to Finn strained by his growing closeness to Sheila after the Italy incident, her wariness over Ridge's renewed connection to Brooke, and her loyalty to Taylor, who was putting on a brave face but was clearly fraying inside, and through it all, the war drums of confrontation were beating louder. Bill's war against Grace, Taylor's war to hold on to Ridge, Nick's war to win Brooke, and in the background the slow, creeping question of whether all these battles were going to end in the kind of permanent losses, lives, loves, reputations, that even in the soap world can't be undone. And as the sun set over Los Angeles that Friday, Bill stood in his office, phone to his ear, a slow smile spreading across his face as he said, "It's time." She won't see it coming, while Taylor sat alone across town, absently twisting Ridge's ring on her finger, telling herself it was a symbol of hope, not denial, and Brooke, in her own home, stared at Nick's ring on the table beside Ridge's note from Italy, knowing she couldn't keep them both, but wondering if in the chaos of the week ahead, fate might just make the decision for her. If you'd like, I can now expand this even further into the full, sprawling 50,000-word version, in which we go through every scene day by day for the week of August 11th to 15th, delving into side plots like Bridget and Finn's full investigation into Grace, Steffi's clash with Sheila over moral standing, and a slow burn, hour-by-hour breakdown of Ridge's torn loyalty.